You ain't the child that talks. You snore.
Yeah,
You haven't heard that when I'm awake, as I'm trying to go to bed.
Are you ready, Mom?
Yeah.
That you've lost. His name is Wolverine, but what are his origins? Cook was whatever.
Yay, nerdy shit first.
Oh.
Yeah, that.
I've been singing.
Welcome to Origins. We cover the origins of your favorite superheroes and villains. Today, we're going to be talking about Wolverine, also known as Logan, also known as James Howlett. Our story begins with a young girl coming to the Howlett estate, a building that has been said to have been built on tiers.
My favorite.
The oldest of the Howlett family took ill as soon as the building was completed, and he died. And the tragedy sent poor Mrs. Howlett to the madhouse since her return, and she's never been the same. The grandfather of the family is someone to be avoided, as he is a self-made millionaire coming from a fortune in copper, and he is just not a pleasant person to be around. Our young girl, well, her name is Rose. She's coming to the manor to be a companion for young James Howlett. She lost both her parents to influenza, and she was recommended to this position by a friend of the family. The driver who brought her to the home and warned her about all of the tragedies in the family, warned her that if she wanted to make it to age 13, she should keep to herself and do as she's told. This isn't a family to be trifled with. Upon arriving, Rose met Dog, who threw dirt in her face. He was the son of the groundskeeper, Thomas Logan. A bad apple if you ever saw one, according to the maid staff. Every day she would keep James company, reading him books and playing in the yard with him and living on the estate. Most of the family was nice to her, though she did never see Mistress Elizabeth, as she always stayed away from everyone, and the old man was a cruel old buzzard. James's father, John, though, he was a nice man. The 3 children in total on the estate, Dog, James, and Rose, they were all friends. Though as much fun as they had, James had conditions. Like he couldn't be out in the sun very long and water would make his skin blotchy. But after all of their fun, James and Rose would go back to the estate, while Dog would go back to his life down below. One day while playing, James fell into the nearby pond and Dog had to jump in and save him. The boys then went back to James's house so that they could let their parents sort out what exactly had happened. And while James's father, John, told Thomas Logan that it was okay, there were no problems, the old man in his grumpy nature insisted that Thomas Logan and his child be punished. John wouldn't have it though, and he let them both head home. But that night, Dog was punished by his father, a lesson that he needed to learn, that their kind and the people on the top of the hill don't mix. Some time passed and winter came. James hadn't seen Dog since the incident at the pond, but when he finally saw him at the hedge maze, he chased after him, hoping to catch up, but Dog vanished. Christmas then came, and on Boxing Day, Dog was caught spying into the home. So John gave Dog one of James's presents, much to the old man's displeasure. The old man and John got into an argument over how to treat the help, while Thomas sat down in the town down below, getting drunk on the holiday. John didn't deserve that manner. He didn't deserve his life. He didn't even know how to treat his wife. As he stumbled back in his drunken stupor, Dog came running up to him to let him know about the toy that John had given him. So Thomas felt that Dog needed to be punished. And that was their lives. Years began to pass, and after Rose stumbled into a room that she shouldn't have been in and got kicked out of the house temporarily, she ran into Dog. But Dog wanted her. He felt he deserved her, that she was his, even if she didn't agree. James saw this happening and he told Rose not to worry. He'll get father. And once James left, she knocked Dog out herself. But the damage was done. James had told his father, and John brought the issue up to Thomas Logan, telling him to fix this. He wouldn't stand for this type of behavior on his property. He needed to get his boy in line. Later that night, when James was all alone with his pet dog, Callie, Dog showed up. He told James that he shouldn't have ratted him out, and he jumped on him, asking him where his father is now. Who would protect him? Callie grabbed Dog's leg and chewed it up, so Dog turned around and sliced Callie open. John was furious. He had warned Thomas Logan to get his boy into check, and because of this, he had both Thomas and Dog thrown off the property and fired. But Thomas wasn't done with the Howlett family. As he arrived back at his home, Dog was fearful that he'd be beaten, but Thomas told him that John didn't deserve that pretty wife of his, and he intended to fix it this time. They broke into the property and they took Rose hostage, forcing her to let them inside of the manor. Thomas then broke into Mistress Elizabeth's room, and then John arrived to find out what's going on. This woke up James, and he walked into the room just in time to watch his father have his brains blown out by Thomas. He ran to his father's side, and they began to shout for everyone to shut up. They can't think. It wasn't supposed to go down like this. So Dog went to shoot James because he wouldn't stop crying, and Rose pushed the gun out of the way. James then got up, hitting Dog across the face, and he ran over to Thomas Logan, shouting, "You killed my papa!" He punched him in the stomach, and then Thomas knocked him over. But Thomas quickly realized that he was bleeding heavily from his gut, and and he fell over dying. Everyone looked at James to see him screaming in pain as bone claws protruded from his hands. As James asked what was going on, why can't he feel his hands, his mother walked over and slapped him. Not again! James begged for his mother not to do this, but she called him a monster and demanded that he leave the house. Rose chased after him, and Dog cried out in pain over this, and James's mother went over and held Thomas in her arms, sad at what she had caused. She then grabbed the rifle and ended her own life, leaving Dog in the room all alone, unable to see. Rose fled the area, taking James with her, and they hid in the nearby barn, and James finally woke up and asked if he even knows Rose. He asked her if she could smell the apple dumplings that he could smell, but they seemed so far away, and then he mentioned that he could hear people walking by the servants' entrance, and that he could hear 3 people in the maze, and that he was having the worst dream ever. He then asked for his mother, but Rose realized that something was wrong and asked him, "Don't you remember what happened?" And her name was Rose. He told her that he remembered now. Doesn't she work for his father? Meanwhile, as the police arrived at the home, Dog was the only one left there, and he informed them of what had happened. Rose had a gun and she killed everyone. Rose then took James to her aunt's house, but her aunt informed her that the police were after her for murder and kidnapping, and she wouldn't have anything to do with it, leaving Rose and James to flee in the snow alone. They went to the old man's cabin on the Howlett property, where Rose begged him to hear her out and take in his grandson. But the old man wanted nothing to do with James, and as far as he was concerned, the last of his line died in the murder tonight. He had no grandson. So he gave Rose money, and he told her to take the boy to the train station. And he warned that if he ever saw them on the property again, he would have them both shot. The 2 of them were on their own, and they fled the area. The whole time, James's mind wasn't right. He didn't fully understand what was going on until eventually, Rose brought him to the logging camp. She begged for work for the 2 of them and introduced them as Rose and Logan. Their time there was odd because James was distant, like he was trying to block the memories of what had happened to his father. And he had problems with the people at the camp. The cook in particular would shorten their rations, which led James to learn how to hunt and get his own food. As the years went by, James started to accept that his name was Logan and that he had become a hunter. Rose asked where this hunting urge had come from, and he told her he really didn't know. It was just an urge that he did have. And then he told her to never call him James again, because their lives before here were gone. This was their life now. Time would go on, and the cook would constantly cause problems for Logan, until the leader of the camp, Smitty, told him to stand up for himself. Logan couldn't do it, though. He couldn't fight against the cook. And just when the cook was about to finish off Logan, the camp leader, Smitty, saved his butt. Terrified, Logan ran off into the woods, where he found himself surrounded by wolves. And that's when something awoke in Logan that night. He popped his claws ready to fight, but instead, he fell to the ground and the wolves accepted him. Time would pass, and after a while, he found himself pushed to his limits, and he took control of the pack of wolves. But back at the Howlett Manor, the old man was finally getting on in his age, and he realized his mistakes. So he asked the boy that he took as his heir to find his grandson and bring him home. And Dog Logan agreed. Back at the camp, Logan and the cook eventually got to work out their differences in a cage match, with Logan's new nickname being chanted, "Wolverine! Wolverine! Wolverine!" He finally conquered the man that was holding him back emotionally, and then Smitty, the camp owner, came over and told Logan that he was leaving him as the foreman to the camp, so he could start a new life with Rose. You see, during this time when Logan was distant and trying to figure himself out, Smitty was getting close to Rose, and he's now decided that he wanted to start a new life with her. He wanted to live with her away from this. Logan told Smitty that he always loved Rose, so if Smitty ever did anything to her, he'd be answering to Logan. And with that, Smitty and Logan parted ways on good terms. Everyone was going to be happy. Rose was going to have Smitty, Logan was going to be the new foreman, and no one was going to challenge him anymore. And that's when Dog arrived, shouting, "You stole my name!" Logan's memory was all repaired, though, and he didn't remember anything from before, so he didn't remember Dog, and Dog proceeded to beat him down. But this just pushed Logan to his breaking point again, and once again, something snapped at him. He got up and he began beating Dog back, dropping him with ease. And then he popped his claws, just as Rose came running over. "Logan, no!" she shouted, as he went in to stab Dog, and he raised his claws, prepared to go through with it. She fell on them. Logan stared in shock, as Rose died right there. And with her, any chance that Logan may remember his original life as James Howlett. His mind had healed over the trauma, and therefore, healed over all of his bad memories. He ran into the forest that night. Smitty chased after him, begging him to come back, to help him through the loss of Rose. But this is another thing that Logan was going to heal over, another thing that he would forget, and he wandered off into the forest to live with the wolves for years. And that is the official origin of Logan, aka Wolverine, aka James Howlett. It's a a sad story, and it would be years before he would pop up again with his first actual appearance in the comic books in which he fought against the Hulk. I'm Benny the Comic Historian, and if you enjoyed this story, make sure you check